Holiday lunch, Mom told me to leave. She said I was a burden, and I believed her. I packed my bag in silence, tears burning. Outside, the cold air felt kinder than my family. That night, I had no plan, only pain. But I never imagined how far it would take me. The smell of roasted turkey, cinnamon pies, and fresh bread filled the house. Holiday lunches were supposed to be about warmth, family, laughter. The one day in the year where everyone pretended to be closer than they actually were. For weeks, I'd been looking forward to this moment. I'd even saved up money to buy a nice dress, something that made me feel like I belonged, like I could step into that dining room and not feel like the odd one out. But the second I walked in, I could already feel it. The eyes. The silence. The quiet, cutting judgment that had been following me since I was a teenager. Look who finally decided to show up. My sister Jenna smirked, her wine glass already half empty. She was the golden child, always successful, always admired. Everything she did, Mom praised. Everything I did, well, it was never enough. I swallowed, forcing a smile. Happy holidays, I said softly, handing Mom a small box. Inside was a necklace I'd worked overtime to afford. She looked at it for a moment, forced a polite smile, and then set it down on the table like it was nothing. "Sit down, honey," she said. Her voice was sweet but sharp beneath the surface. I sat between my cousins, trying to act normal, trying to join in the conversation, but it didn't take long before the questions started. "So," Uncle Rick leaned forward, "what are you doing these days? Found a steady job yet?" I froze. My fork hovered above my plate. My face burned. They all knew I'd been struggling since college. Freelance jobs here and there, never quite stable. "I'm working on a few projects," I said quickly, "trying to get something long-term." Jenna laughed, so basically, still nothing. The table erupted with quiet chuckles. Even my cousins joined in. I wanted to disappear. I tried to change the subject, but Mom was already watching me with that look. The same look she'd given me when I was 16 and failed math, when I dropped out of law school, when I came back home broke after a bad breakup. Finally, halfway through the meal, she put her fork down and cleared her throat. The room went silent. "I need to say something," Mom began, her voice steady but cold. She looked directly at me. My heart raced. "Wow, you've been leaning on this family for far too long. We've supported you, given you a roof, food, time to get back on your feet. But enough is enough." The room froze. I blinked, not sure if I heard her right. "Mom," my voice cracked, "what are you saying?" She didn't even flinch. "I'm saying it's time for you to stop relying on the family. You're an adult. You need to stand on your own, starting now." The words hit me harder than any slap. In front of everyone. My entire family. I heard the whispers. I saw Jenna smirking into her glass, my uncle shaking his head in fake disappointment. I didn't think. I tried to speak, but my throat closed. My hands shook as I set down my fork. "Don't make a scene," Mom said sharply. "We're having lunch. Just accept it." But how do you accept something like that? Being humiliated, pushed out, discarded like you're nothing? For a moment, I thought about fighting back, screaming, telling them about all the things I had done. How I was the one who cared for Mom when she was sick last year, while Jenna stayed in her perfect little apartment downtown. How I sacrificed my own savings to help pay bills when Dad left. But the words never came out, because I knew. No matter what I said, it wouldn't matter. So I just nodded. "Okay." My voice was barely a whisper. The rest of the meal blurred. I barely touched my plate. My cousins laughed, my aunts gossiped, my sister told another story about her amazing promotion. And me? I just sat there, silent, invisible, humiliated. When the plates were cleared, I excused myself. Nobody followed me. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody cared. I went upstairs to my old room, the room that had once been mine, filled with posters and books that still smelled like my childhood. I sat on the bed, staring at the walls. For a moment, I thought maybe it was all a bad dream. Maybe she didn't mean it. But then I remembered her eyes. Cold. Final. So I packed, quietly, slowly. I folded the few clothes I had left there. I placed the books into a bag. My hands trembled, my chest tight. With every item I packed, it felt like I was erasing myself from this house. Downstairs, I could still hear laughter, music, clinking glasses, my family celebrating the holidays while I prepared to walk out of their lives. I stood by the window for a moment, my bag over my shoulder, tears burning in my eyes. This house had seen my first steps, my first heartbreak, my first dreams, and now it was spitting me out. Before I left, I looked in the mirror one last time. I barely recognized the person staring back at me. Pale, broken, small. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the pain, a tiny spark flickered. A thought. Maybe this was the beginning. With shaky hands, I opened the door, stepped outside into the cold December air, and closed it quietly behind me. Not a single person came to stop me. And just like that, I was gone. The December air cut through my thin coat as I stepped onto the sidewalk. My bag felt heavier than it really was, not because of the weight inside, but because of everything it represented. My life, reduced to a few folded shirts, a couple of books, and a phone charger. My breath came out in white clouds, trembling just like my hands. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the house. Lights glowed from the windows. Shadows moved across the curtains. My family laughing, eating dessert, enjoying the holiday. Inside, they were warm and comfortable. Out here, I was just gone. Nobody noticed. Nobody cared. I turned away and began walking. The bus station was nearly empty when I arrived. The fluorescent lights buzzed above, and the only sound was the squeak of my shoes on the dirty floor. I had no plan, no destination. All I knew was that I couldn't go back. I sat on a bench, clutching my bag to my chest. My phone buzzed, a text from Jenna. "Next time, try being less of a burden. Maybe then Mom will respect you." I stared at the screen, tears welling up. She didn't even hide her cruelty. It wasn't enough that Mom had humiliated me in front of everyone. Jenna had to twist the knife. I blocked her number. For the next few days, I drifted. Cheap motels, cold coffee, nights staring at ceilings, wondering if maybe Mom was right. Maybe I was a failure. But then, something shifted. On the fourth night, sitting in a diner with my last few dollars, I overheard two strangers talking at the next booth. They weren't much older than me, but they spoke with excitement about a small business they were building. A startup. They were scared, broke, unsure, but their eyes burned with hope. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something in my chest. That spark again. The truth was, I'd always dreamed of starting something of my own. I had ideas, notebooks filled with sketches, late-night thoughts about products that could change lives. But every time I shared them at home, Mom rolled her eyes. Jenna laughed. "Stick to reality," they'd say. "You're not cut out for that." But maybe they were wrong. With what little money I had, I rented a tiny room in the city. It was barely bigger than a closet, with a mattress on the floor and a flickering light bulb. But it was mine. For the first time, every decision was mine. I started working odd jobs, waiting tables, stocking shelves, anything to scrape by. During the day, I worked. At night, I scribbled ideas, made plans, sent emails. Most of them went unanswered. Sometimes I cried myself to sleep from exhaustion. But slowly, step by step, I began to build. Months passed. My hands were rough, my bank account nearly empty, but my spirit stronger than it had ever been. I met people. Other dreamers, other broken souls who refused to give up. One of them, a woman named Lila, became my closest friend. She believed in me when no one else did. When I showed her my prototype, a simple handmade design for something I'd been working on for years, her eyes lit up. "You need to launch this," she said. "This is good." For the first time, I believed it too. But life wasn't done testing me. Just as things began to move, I got an email from Mom. Short, cold. "Don't come back here asking for money. You made your choice." My chest ached reading it. It wasn't about the money. It was about love. about family. She'd chosen to cut me off completely. Then came another blow. A mutual friend told me Jenna had been telling everyone that I was living on the streets, probably into drugs. My own sister was destroying my reputation before I even had a chance. The betrayal stung deeper than anything. But instead of breaking me, it fueled me. I poured everything I had into my work. Days blurred into nights, failure after failure, but each mistake taught me something new. And then, finally, it happened. One of my prototypes caught the eye of a small investor. It wasn't much, just enough to fund a small launch, but it was the break I needed. With trembling hands, I signed the contract. My dream was no longer just a dream. It was real. The next months were chaos. Late nights, endless stress, moments where I thought I'd collapse. But slowly, customers came. Orders trickled in. People started noticing. And then, one day, I woke up to hundreds of notifications. A popular influencer had shared my product. My inbox exploded. My small project turned into something bigger than I ever imagined. I sat in my tiny room, tears streaming down my face, whispering, I did it. I actually did. A year later, I walked into a cafe near my old neighborhood. My clothes were still simple, but my eyes carried a fire they never had before. As I sipped my coffee, I saw them. Mom and Jenna sitting at a table near the window, laughing. Perfect. Untouchable. For a moment, my chest tightened. The old pain threatened to return. But then, something unexpected happened. Mom's eyes met mine. She froze. Her laughter died. Jenna turned, her smirk fading. They both stared, shocked. Because I wasn't the broken girl who had walked out of that house with a single bag. I wasn't the family embarrassment. I was someone new. Someone stronger. Mom stood, hesitating. Honey, it's been a long time. I smiled faintly, but there was no bitterness in me anymore. Just clarity. Yes, I said, and I'm doing just fine. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their love. I had built something on my own, brick by brick, pain by pain. As I walked out of the cafe, the winter sun warm on my face, I realized something. The moment Mom told me to leave was the moment my life truly began.